बात का तुझको डर है वो करके दिखा दूंगा ऐसे ना मुझे तुम देखो सीने से लगा लूंगा तुमको मैं चुरा लूंगा तुमसे दिल में छुपा लूंगा ऐसे ना मुझे तुम देखो सीने से लगा लूंगा तुमको मैं चुरा लूंगा तुमसे दिल में
ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. Good evening everyone. Hello, good evening. Can we start the interactions? Some two teams went to the sites. I'll just brief the concept what we are planning actually. Right now it is in a concept plan. We are yet to finalize the entire design. We will take input from everyone so that it will be helpful for us actually. So I'll not take much of the time. I'll go straight away to topics. This stretch is about 150 meters. This location consists of surrounding the central market, multi-level car parking, a railway station, hospitals, an entire, and this shopping activity is more in this particular stretch actually. And the basic width of this road is about 4 meter to 6 meter. So, and this is presently a non-motorized, actually you can say non-motorized, except the shop keepers or the some neighbors, they use this road for their day-to-day activities. So we want to eliminate that usage of vehicular for this area. So you can see entire this area is surrounded by commercial area. So right now the current scenario is like they are using for parking and for the shopping. And if you see, there is an auto stand which is not in a proper shape. So there is a bus stop next to this site. There is an auto stand. We have a two multi-level car parking in this area so that once we close this, once this make this road as an NMT road, so people need a parking facility. So anyhow we are having two MLCPs that will take care of this parking issues. The basically design what we are proposing is basically to have some kind of walking and shopping experience for everyone. I'll show a typical cross section where we are going to have some light features, walkings, some carriageway and this footpath with drains, surface drain actually. This is the plan of this auto stand area, mentions here. So something like this, we are going to retain this tree, we are going to develop the all along this tree area actually. We are going to use ramp, like we are going to use some signages. See, there is a town Calicut next to the Mangaluru, similar nature. So kind of, this is one of the proposal we are captured from the Calicut also actually. This is from Calicut, what we are planning to introduce this concept in our Mangalore. We can open for discussion, sir.
Congratulations, this is very exciting. This is amazing work. So, we just walked with a group and we want to hear some other thoughts as well, but I'd love to just share my quick reflections on really an extraordinary opportunity and really wonderful work. And this is part of the marathon, the Placemaking Marathon that is such a model program nationally that we've been learning a little bit about and are excited to share around the world because I think every country should be doing this. But it really comes down to how projects like this succeed. Working on a street like this is such a huge opportunity the market district. I've been to market districts all over the world, and some around Indian cities in the past, and oftentimes there has been efforts to sort of take the life out of them, or design offers and how they become a destination and get people to spend longer there, to shop more. The way to create great pedestrian streets isn't to get rid of cars, it's to create great places. And cities first formed as markets, and in markets everyone competes to contribute to the shared value of the street. Every vendor, every customer, the storefront design is always who gives the most back to the street. Now unfortunately where cities have gone wrong is where it's gone inside out. It's been who takes the most from the street. Who the car, the building, the retail, the vendor, who sucks value from the place. So the way to change this paradigm is to create great places, and this placemaking marathon program in this project is an extraordinary opportunity and strategy for going right to the heart of showing what's possible and having people say that this is something we can replicate. And so this is one of the best places to do this kind of work, but we want to get these placemaking examples all over the city, in the most informal communities and the most high-end, and everywhere in between. But the process is key, and how it sounds like people have spoken to some of the vendors and retailers already, but we have exercises like this Power of 10 and this place game that help them see how they're part of a larger, creating a great destination, and how the entrances, there's a plaza along, maybe we can go to the diagram quickly, is that how we think a great street has at least 10 great places in it, each with 10 things to do in it. And some of those things are public, free, some of those things the vendors provide, some of those things the city provides. And so this plaza that's currently has this beautiful old tree in it, and the rickshaws go around, needs to be a place with 10 things to do in it. And so it's what we don't often ask a community to design the space. We ask them, what do you do in the space, and what would you like to do in the space? And what are other spaces you've been to that you like, that you think this space could learn from? And you all of a sudden get lots of ideas. And you even ask them, what could you help improve about this space? So how do you get the people around there to actually feel like they're managing it, take responsibility for taking care of the tree, putting on an event, putting out some games, to sort of challenge and inspire some of the retailers to actually contribute more, and to also get them to have sort of to self-police and self-regulate how they may be co-opting that space or taking from it. I really like the way the informal, the street sort of blurs public and private, and I think that's actually really important to keep. But you also don't want people taking the public space too much, or putting out product that really degrades the shared value of the space. You want to raise the quality of the retail and their displays to contribute to the street. But this obviously is an opportunity for a quieter spot to slow down, to rest, but also for a different type of vending. But this can be one of the more important, a place like this can be defining to a whole city. It's small, a small place can be, Guillermo was there and he loved the ice cream place there, and he said, I could live in this city. So it's the experience at this scale that where we connect, we fall in love with a place, and we connect deeper with people we're in. So making that, and Guillermo and I remembered a plaza that we were in that's similar to that in Colombia, where they had dancers and people from, mostly locals, but tourists loved it. It was their favorite plaza because they'd come here to feel part of the community. They felt welcome, and they contributed to the space as well. They didn't just consume it. But let's go down the street a little further, and then we'll go to the next group. I do want to say one thing about the design, though, is because naturally these projects to be about people, place, and product, not about the objects, not about the rigidity. And it's very tempting for designers to try to put things that actually sometimes leads to some more design than you would have thought, because you've tested something. But a lot of the pedestrian streets in the U.S. failed when they became over-designed, when they tried to impose a park-like experience that became passive, that privatized the street, took out the energy of the street. You need the energy to be kept. And too many, often a lot of the streetscapes projects have failed because they were sort of trying to make a design statement of their time, and then after 10 years they start to look out of date. So you want to use a more timeless aesthetic, and often less design allows for that flexibility and the timelessness sometimes. As you see, people are attracted to people, and when people see people gathering, that's and slow and having fun and relaxed and connecting, that's the biggest advertisement for coming into that street. And then you're drawn in India that is pretty simple and can be replicated in many contexts. But starting here, making this work is key, and it's an exciting opportunity. We look forward to hearing about it, promoting it, and we're all with you to support you as you go through this. So I'll stop there because the next group is going to be much better than I am. But this is, thank you very much. Any
They can enter, they can feedback.
other yeah, okay, yeah. So other people that from the workshop want to give some thoughts, or anyone have any questions about this space or thoughts that they want to? Yeah, we have a little more time. I know a lot of people from my group had ideas. I know Guillermo had a similar plaza he created in yeah. Well, you go ahead, and
Yeah.
Guillermo will show a plaza he created in Mexico.
So we were just speaking about this work, and actually it's a fantastic place. What happened to that space is that it's renovated or its original magic. So what I will say is keep the original magic, and this applies to everything. Where it's about leveling up a little bit. So I think that's what it should be done in the square. I think they have fantastic amenities. I actually found something I was looking for all over India, some spices that I was looking for. So, and then we had ice cream, and then so it was a fantastic experience, to be honest. Yeah, and we buy a sari, we buy a nice sari. So it's yeah, really. So and all that happened just in a rush of 15 minutes that we were there, 20 minutes we were there. Everything, and then 2-3 years later, it's off. There's nothing. It's worse than it was because there's no activities, there's no life. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity to level up what's going on there.
Just to add to that, yeah, I was concerned about the uniformity. There's often an urge to create uniformity of signage. It comes from a good place, but that also can kill the life. If it becomes too much about the architecture, the facade, not as much about the people and the product, it can limit it. Having aesthetics are important, but the people and product are even more important for making the street lively and active. So that's sensitive. Do you want to say something, or Brian? No, he's good.
No, sir.
No, I'm actually Rajiv, working for WRI, and I'm based out of Bangalore. So, I mean, the reason I also wanted to highlight a few points is I also come with a little bit of experience of doing placemaking and public spaces in India. So, I completely understand there is a need to contextualize and see what we can do with the resources we have and the behavior we have. So just a few points. I think first point is to very consciously look at this whole process as an inclusive process, to see in what best way you can include the locals to sort of get their inputs, because there is a huge challenge with the smart city projects and other city projects to also finish it and so that it can be used by the people, but in the process we often lose that whole step of even asking people what they want. So because of which they always remain and end up becoming underused. So just to be sort of conscious of that. The second thing is, although the project sort of starts and ends at different points, I think it was quite crucial based on the traffic movement we saw. It is important to understand if this road is blocked and you're saying it's completely a pedestrianized street, what happens to the larger level circulation of vehicles? And secondly, if you're removing the parking out of that, are you already suggesting a comfortable place where they can go and park? And for example, I was told that there is a multi-level park coming in, but would the two-wheelers really go up 3 floors and park and come down and use this pick for a 10-minute job is what we need to think. I mean, we just need to look into the human behavior aspect and see, is it really feasible Or after doing all this, are people again coming back and putting their two-wheelers into that? Just to be conscious of the behavioral patterns. Sorry. Yeah. And that comes to my third point of parking in terms of how, as much as we're working on the street, the third dimension also can add a lot of value in terms of creating a space. So can there be some thought given in terms of signages, aligning the, the whole display boards in some way? And finally, the last one is, again, to look at this project not really as a one-time engagement, but also to see that what happens to this project after 1 year or 2 years, and what is that you need to do in this where the whole activity and the functioning of the street can be sustained in a way. Because we have done these kind of examples, for example in Church Street in Bangalore, it did start with, it's been done really beautifully, but then after a long time either the payment was coming off or people were not using it in a certain way. The shopkeepers complained that the trucks are not allowed inside. So just to take stock of those things, so to make sure that the street doesn't function only for 3 months, but people really start making that their space and it can function for a longer time. Yeah. Thanks.
I was just asking some of the Mumbai people, when you get out of the stations and there are a set of streets that have been pedestrianized, and so they seem to be fairly simple. I'm not sure much has been done on that. So could we be looking at something similar to start with here? No, there are.
But that's the question is asking. What's the length of that street?
This is only 120 meters.
So, did you think of making this only a pedestrian street?
That's what I'm saying. Why not just make a pedestrian street and leave it at that to start with?
Cars for the shops to be.
So basically right now,
Instead of trying to do all these payments, okay, is maybe a good idea to do those cobbles, but not overcomplicate it.
there is a dead end here actually. Vehicles are not allowed to go in this part.
So that length that we see, there are no cars.
No cars. Right now there are no cars. There will be some cars for shopping. People comes.
But that's only between certain times.
Certain times.
I see.
Basically two-wheeler parking. More of a two-wheeler.
Then will you need a ribbon of red along with the yellow?
So, okay, we've just been to that street. Let me just try and articulate. There's a lot of issues. There are a lot of issues with a lot of two-wheelers there. They're like, it just makes the process of walking a little more hazardous and completely unpleasant. So, if we are able to somehow keep the two-wheelers out and just make it walkable, I think this thing by itself starts to work. Cobble, in my opinion, may be a nice idea just to do. So that also controls and ensures that by speeding. So which is why I'm saying cobbles may be a nice idea to do. Yeah, yeah. And the end where there's an auto stand, they go around the people, and there are 2 HT substations there. Can we put them underground? If we put them underground, or if we can move them out, then that plaza becomes an open plaza, and we can bring in more things happening there. So if we can just be simple, and also this piece of land, I believe, is a private land. Yes. That's a private land. So if we can be, if the scooters are out, this man can be convinced, or maybe we block it here. Pay and park, and you block it here. That's one option. Or just keep them out, and this one becomes a plaza, and he can put in some street shopping there. So they can make money out of this, and then he has an interest to keep this thing going. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else that was there and wanted to feedback? Yeah.
Hi. Just a couple of thoughts. One was, I'm guessing that some consultations have taken place, I'm guessing, right, with the types of shop owners. Have you already done some consultations with the stakeholders there? Not yet. So, as Ethan said already, it's a great start, but some obvious things are obviously knowing who the stakeholders are. But I think just for the starting point, understanding the spatio-temporal aspect of it, I think just to continue on where Rajiv left off, this understanding of how much time people are spending, as Rajiv was also mentioning, if it is spectacle, how much of it is program, and how much of it is space. Like, how much time is somebody going to spend there? Like, I mean, Ethan, you were talking about 10 points, and we were looking at another framework in another project which was saying ki, how much of it is like a spectacle, like I'm watching people, I'm watching somebody shop, how much of it is a real program? So is it shopping and something else, or is it like, and that adds to my time that I will then spend there, and therefore the peripheral infrastructure requirements that I may have because I'm spending time there. Like I could also, if somebody's going to spend 4 hours there, I could start thinking of public toilets. I could think of other requirements. So this is one thought, just to like have a temporal, spatiotemporal sense of this and the types of users of this space. The other thought that occurs to me is that oftentimes in pedestrianization projects, it's often useful to think about network, even if we are not right now thinking of this, but like, is this phase one of a larger pedestrian? And I'm sure you all have thought a lot more about this than we are coming from helicopter view of this. But what happens when this happens, when pedestrianization happens, it starts inducing a certain kind of movement from somewhere else. And people already see the opportunity, because I can already see that this looks like a shortcut to a much busier fabric. So just keeping that continuity at the back of our heads is helpful, because then we can probably do tabletop crossings at certain points. We can look at where crossing the road will become dangerous, where things like that stop happening. It would be useful to like just look at those two things. Yeah, thank you.
Woo! I like everything he said, and I was agreeing, like, I'd love to see gateway signage. You know, we entered this place and it wasn't until halfway through it that we realized we were in a place, and then it's already halfway done. And then I also agree, you got to speak to all those stores and see what they want and what their dreams are. I think we initially saw some bridal shops, and so maybe they want to have a fashion show, and maybe some of the spice vendors and would love to see some more food pop-ups, and it would be great to see some outdoor dining or tables outside by the ice cream place. So I think bringing out more uses based on who's there and making those tenants really take ownership of different days of the street, so it's a festival street or a mini festival street.
I'm sorry, I didn't visit this place. I haven't been there.
There's a side visuals
yeah,
actually.
But I can sense a few things. One of the things I would like to repeat what Ethan said, and that's extremely important. Yeah, you're there. Yeah, but that's not the point. May I draw your attention, please? The point I was making is what Ethan said is extremely important. In the beginning, that we as designers or engineers or developers, like the Smart City Authority, would like to do a perfect job. Design and over-design. By that, what we mean is that we specify where somebody should stand, where somebody should sit, where somebody should squat, and so forth. Everything is so precisely designed. And that really is one of the counterproductive approaches to an open space idea. So the real challenge is that we're talking about stakeholders and we're only talking about shop owners. They're not the only stakeholders. The public, which
is over-designed, and the economy is, of course, we need all these vendors, and what makes the society more integrated and inclusive and makes great places. But yeah, I mean, so many great points. I wish we were writing all these down, because this it shows how a good placemaking process. You know, the skills are all here, the ideas are all here. You know, Ryan runs a business improvement district. You know, he knows how to manage streets, and so that you have to think of what kinds of management entity comes out of this process. And again, you don't want, just like write some specific ideas of classes that could really inspire into this, and then you ask the participants to come up with a program for the different places along there, and how they can help contribute to and manage those spaces. So, so out of that process, you get the program that then informs the design. And I really like the idea to do a temporary closure of the space, and you could do the workshop while you do temporary closure, even testing out temporarily some doesn't work. Guillermo wants to add something.
Also, I think something very important is we are having a conversation with foreigners and maybe people that normally do not shop there and that are not there and are not the business owners. So I think it's very important to engage in these conversations also, the business owners, the community that go there and shop, because they are the ones that actually will tell us the uses. I think it's a fantastic idea in all our cities to take out the two-wheelers, the three-wheelers, the four-wheelers, take out all the cars. But I think this is from my perspective, but I think it's super important to take the consideration of the community and the people and our users about these ideas, because when we impose ideas, and my experience is when we impose an idea that we think is good in a paper, or I saw something in Amsterdam or in Mexico or in US, and we take it and we impose it, then it do not work. And it's because we are imposing something that is not close to the context and not close to the community. So my take is, it's a great idea to do it, but we should do it with the community and that means business owners and the people are shopping in the streets. So I think it's very, very important to take their considerations also.
One more point here. Oh, you want to say something? No, you should. Yeah, and just we are getting some of the ideas down.
So I had the opportunity to participate in a placemaking marathon as well, and for one of our cities. And there what we did, so usually in India we have this mentality as to when we talk to the stakeholders or the local businessmen for such a street, they usually end up asking us a question as to what do we gain from it. So what we did there is we started by showing them a branding strategy to increase footfall for their own store. So that was phase one, where we sort of made them excited and work with them so as to how we gave them a certain flexible guidelines as to how their storefront, their signage systems, their boards should look like, how the lighting should look like, and they themselves started coming up with ideas as to how their shop is going to interact with the street. And that's how the entire street then was thought of to be pedestrianized, or partially pedestrianized. So I think that can be one of the steps where branding strategies, the strategists like Roshni could also help.
Say what we learned from Roshni last night. Thank you. Yeah, that was missing from this conversation certainly, and yeah, how a brand organically comes from this, but also what's the market wanting, and how do we support the brand of the individual businesses and the collective brand to emerge in an authentic way? Is how this becomes a destination, and how different demographics see it and participate in it over time. Making sure that brand isn't monolithic or static too. And one of the ideas with the Power of 10 is that each place has a range of uses, public and private, that appeal to different demographics and audience. So you layer their experience in it, and they're attracted to move through the street. There's something for kids at each of the 5 or 7 places that draw them back and coming, and older people and teens, people that can't afford to be there, people that can afford to be there. You want to get them all excited to be there and all richer for having the shared experience, the layered experience in those places. You want to close it out?
Yeah. So in addition to what Devshri just said, so basically we also have to consciously understand and think that being a placemaker, our role is not just designing things. Our role should be a design translator, where we actually translate what is being needed there. So the first part is actually talking to stakeholders and asking them what do they need, and tell us, and then it can be a continuous or progressive design that you try and test for like a year or two. That would eventually give you an efficient design which you can actually make it permanent. So like along with that, I would also agree with Rajiv that he mentioned like what happens after a year. Like yes, you can make the entire entire stretch new, look like new, implement a new design, but then what happens after a year? So that is also has to be considered, like, you know, how you keep people engaged along with the stakeholders, what you do when there is a holiday, the entire stretch is off, like nobody's there, there is no movement. So all these things has to be thought of before you actually implement the design. So like there are stages that you can talk to stakeholders and then, you know, go to a conceptual design. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Wow, guys, you guys are amazing. This is, so much wisdom and expertise in this room. So congrats. So here, back to.
I'd like to say that actually this is part of the placemaking marathon, which was postponed specifically so we could have inputs from this event, this conference. So it was due to happen over a period of a week in early November, but it was postponed to mid-December, so they could get enriched from your inputs and feedback. And Kavyashri, I want to introduce Kavyashri Attar, also from Smart City Mangaluru. She's an urban designer, and she's also been listening to your inputs. So if there are people who are interested in participating in the placemaking marathon, or want to take this further, please contact her. So there should be a concrete outcome from this, I hope. So thank you so much. And out of time to go to visit it from the land side, but there is a short film about it. So if you could show us, please.
Self-explanatory video of 9 minutes. Yeah. this was a overall master plan of Mangalore Smart City. The works actually have been started actually for some of the projects actually. For some projects we are awaiting CRZ approvals. So that's it actually.
Thank you, from two European cities that possibly know waterside placemaking most intuitively. One is Stockholm and the other is Amsterdam. And so let's hear what they have to say on the matter, because they've been spending the better part of today, observing and watching from the ferry and also walking along the old port to see what the possibilities are for placemaking.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for the introduction. Before we go into it, so my name is Fredrik Lindstad, and I used to be the vice mayor to the city of Stockholm, but I'm also the chairman of the board to the ports of Stockholm. So working with waterfronts has been something that I've been doing for a long time, and especially the conversion of waterfronts, what it has been, what it is, and what it will be. That's very short about me. Who are you?
Hi, good evening. My name is Dirk de Jager, and I used to be deputy mayor in Amsterdam in 2 districts, and my whole life I live in Amsterdam, and I've seen the transformation of the city of Amsterdam being an, let's say, more old-fashioned port into a completely other city with completely other functions, where I also closely have been involved with. At the moment I'm related to organization Stipo in Amsterdam, which is quite involved in placemaking. Shall I start, Fredrik? Is that okay
Well,
with
the
you?
thing is that this was a lovely video, and I'm sure we're going to get back into it. I'm sure there are lots of people in the room who are going to have some thoughts about it. But the thing is, it's been a long day. We've had so many impressions, and yesterday we've had a fantastic couple of days. So, to tackle the complexity of what we're seeing and and the challenges that we're up against, and this fantastic possibility of development, we thought we'd treat you with a little bit of entertainment. So we're going to go into completely unrehearsed role play mode.
Okay, there we go.
So please meet the Placemaking Impro Company,
Yes.
hosted by yours truly. the very good friend.
Placemaking is improvising as well, and creativity. Well, from the point of view from me, as a governor here, hello.
This is the governor of
the governor.
the
The
big
governor.
government.
Good evening. Well, you have seen our beautiful plans, which we worked out over the last years in the framework of the Smart City programs. And actually, if you could have seen, and I have seen this today as well, this is a beautiful city. A beautiful city with so many potential, being close to the water, to the sea, to the river, actually 2 rivers on 2 sides. And we have discovered, if you have seen in Amsterdam and Stockholm, who made us also this transition in having old cities with port functions, with a lot of industry, shipyards and other things close to the water, which are losing during the time their role and their function, and also their economic function. And a city should be prepared for the future, should be prepared for new things, should be a smart city. And that is exactly what is taking place in Mangalore at the moment. And using the waterfront, putting all kinds of new functions there, will attract new people, will attract also investors here, and make sure that Mangalore will be a new city and prepared for the coming 50, 60 years. And you have seen how many nice investments are taking place with, at the waterfront, ecological development, green areas, possibilities to pedestrian to walk there, having cycle paths, having sport facilities, having restaurants around, and possible also some residents, because it's a very nice place to live at. It's a very top quality to be there. And Mangalore still have good quality of air, has greenery and has a nice surrounding, which I think is in a lot of other cities in India very difficult at the moment. So therefore this development here is very important. And although I know that maybe some functions who are now there, which are maybe within the neighborhood, could be difficult to understand, that transitions is taking place. I think for the general interest of the city, it's needed to take this place. For example, we have been in the harbor. Let me finish my point, please. We have been in the harbor, which is of course very nice, but I'm doubting whether all those ships there having the function and having the possibility. And so I think this place for a big part could be used for other functions, as I mentioned.
I don't know what to say. I am a fisherman, and my father was a fisherman and a fisherman before him, and I represent the real community of Mangalore alongside everyone. And I can't see myself in your plans. I can't see the heritage of Mangalore. I can't see any fishing boats. I can't see the true nourishment. I can't see that you are respecting how many jobs that we're creating and how much of the maritime legacy that we're not seeing, how much of the shipyards we're not seeing, how much of the fishing industry that is so important for so many that we're not seeing. Where is the barber that's cutting hair in the docks? Where are the shops? Where are they all going to go when this amazing master plan comes in? Where are we going to go as a community? Where do we fit in into your magic?
Yes, yes. Oh, really my old role. Okay, no tomatoes, please. Yeah, you can say this, and I can understand, of course, that if you have certain values at this moment, and it's difficult to understand, but I'm doubting whether all the ships I have seen really have the function in fishing, and they take a lot of space of this very important and valuable waterfront. And by the way, is all this fishing in this way, is this sustainable? We need to transfer to a sustainable city, to a sustainable society. And in our plans, a big part of this fishing area can be transferred to another place where it's more out of the city and it's much more prepared for a good infrastructure, because at the moment all the big trucks who are need to go through the city coming from this place is very bad for the air quality, is bad for the city itself. So I think, although I understand of course the interest of and the history and of the city, we really have to make this step to the future. Otherwise, Mangalore will be behind and will not have the right proposal for the perspective for the future.
Okay, since you're a politician, Mr. Governor, let me break this down in money, because politicians understand money, or lack of it. So, as a fisherman, I and my fellow fishermen are creating a series of jobs that we'd like to describe as 3 lines. So there's the first and the second and the third line. As a fisherman, I am a part of the first line. All the fishermen that are actual fishermen represent and create jobs. And there's thousands of us, and the crew on board. And in the first line, it's also included the people working on the actual port and managing the fisheries. And then we have the second line, the logistical companies, all the companies, the trucking companies, that they themselves create jobs. That's even more jobs. And then we have the third line. You know, what happens if you close down a port of goods? Will restaurants close? Will shops have to close? I mean, we're talking almost 100,000 jobs that will be lost. That's real people, real money. There's not going to be any tax base coming into Mangalore. How do you plan to handle that, Mr. Politician?
Well, I think it will be a transfer of things. We have been today also to the factory where they make the roof preparations, and it used to be a big factory here over the last 50, 60 years, where there worked about 300, 400 people. There are only 60 people left. And I talked with the owner, and they don't know what the future of this is, because they can't find labor at the moment to do this seat, because it's an old factory. They didn't went with the future, with new technology. So actually there is hardly any perspective and any future anymore. So we don't have any more persons at the steam trains in England anymore, because at the end of the day. So we have to continue, we have to also, Mangalore have to go in the future. I think the community wants to say something.
Oh no, the community wants to say something. Now we're in real trouble.
So we are the community, and we love speeches, but we wanna see action. We wanna know when things are gonna be done. We see beautiful plans, we see beautiful drawings, we feel beautiful, very green everything, but we wanna know when everything is gonna happen, because we always see words and we don't see action. And we also want to know how to deal with the fishermen, because we have a big problem with cleanliness and how they manage what they are doing. So we want answers.
Well, actually, it's already happening. You, of course, you have been already one day, but activities are taking place. We started already. Of course, it not can be done overnight. It will take some time, but we really started already on it. So it comes, it goes.
We don't feel seen. That our working port is a beautiful social place, smiling faces, people jumping from boat to boat, seeing their friends. It's our whole life, it's our community. And we just would like a little respect and inclusion in this process. We don't see ourselves in this plan. That looks like Singapore or something. We want to see it. This is a place of new arrivals and a port of entry. And we want to be a part of this community. So
Okay. Well. Yeah. Okay. We stop it. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Sorry. This is the last speaker. Sorry,
No.
last speaker.
Yeah. No, we've been listening to the speech from a long time. So, but the question that I want to put forward is that how do you think the same issue will be addressed by a placemaker? And then how do you think the same thing will be dealt by a placemaker, so that we could understand how could it be more related to the on-ground reality? Then.
Okay. Now, it's very good because we have a lot of placemakers tonight here. So actually, I think we're done.
Yeah, we're done.
The fisherman and the governor. Okay, we're done. Give me a hand. Shake hands. Okay. We're done. And we would like to give you the floor. We'd like to give you
Absolutely.
the floor. The students.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the students.
So this little tiny exercise was just to show the complexity of things. I mean, there's so many voices that have to be heard. We have a city that's striving, that wants to develop for the now and for the future. There's a cultural heritage that goes in generations of generations, and there are environmental aspects to be considered. There are so many things, and I think just a fun, simple sort of exercise like this really shows the complexity of it. But we're going to go out of our improv shells now and open up the floor for reflections and ideas on this topic.
Yeah. Okay.
It was an incredible tour, just walking around and also seeing it from the boat. And I can see where this kind of vision comes from. And I've seen it being implemented because I spent 3 years in Singapore at a landscape architecture firm, and I've seen how that can be done. And what I've also seen is erosion of social fabric. What I've also seen is erosion of culture. So what would have been interesting for me to see is really a full exercise of what are the good things about this entire stretch, and how does that overlay with the proposals? Because, and I'm sorry, I'm going to critique the visual. There is nobody culturally from Mangalore in the visual. I didn't see myself in there unless I was thinking of myself in a completely different attire walking down the streets in Singapore. right? So I didn't even see myself being in India. So for it to relate back to the community, it's so important. But at the same time, I also agree with Mr. Governor, because it's about the future as well, right? It's about the environment, the ecology, sustainability aspects of how all those functions are happening. We need to look forward as well. But I think that it would have been very fascinating to see this as a collage on things that are working well. But I also understand that hello, yeah. That a lot of the people along the edges, especially the fishermen community, I heard that there are lots of migrants over there where they don't feel that they belong there. So I understand it's complex, but I think just of having it culturally rooted is so important.
Basically, we are not rehabilitating anyone in these projects actually. That's a statement I like to give here actually. So basically, we are. If you see this Mangalore actually, basically Mangalore known for Mangalore tiles. Entire world knows that Mangalore tiles started from Mangalore actually. So what is happening here? There were around 50 factories around this area. Right now, only 1 or 2 are working. That were limited quantity. As sirs rightly said, there were lakhs of laborers. Right now, there are no laborers for those factories. Though they are abandoned now actually. So we are encouraging them to take up those factories, abandoned factories, make them as a lively, so that there is employment opportunities. And we are not touching any of this fishermen ports. We are developing that fishermen ports. You know what happens in this Mangalore? 90% of the fish, whatever they catch, it goes export to the other cities actually. Hardly 10% of the fish. We have done the survey actually. I'm saying the fact actually. Hardly 10% of the fish locally consumed actually. So because we have a fish meal factories, also they use most of the fishes also. So we are not basically rehabilitating anyone. We are going for inclusive growth actually. No, I understood that actually. See, it's difficult to show everything in this short.
One.
Yeah, I agree. No, samajh gaya.
Okay, I have another reaction here.
So I'm from the neighboring village, and we saw a project, which is the Blue Flag project, that came up in between the 2 districts. And the village's been seeing a lot of flooding in the monsoon season, and we are seeing drought during the summers, and it's increased after we've had these kind of concrete projects. And the olden days when we had the mangroves and the fisher folk even kind of taking care of those spaces, it protected us from these floods and the drought. Are you doing anything to fix that?
Actually, when I started the presentation, there was a biodiversity park actually. There are mangroves, we are growing mangroves also. Actually, along the river of Mangalore, there are lots of mangrove plantation is happening from the local authorities actually.
More porous, I think the water's edge should not have any concrete in it. And there are lots of nature-based solutions that can be used. And I think there's, I was on the advisory board of the Udupi District Commissioner's Office when the Blue Flag Beach project was happening. And and there's a lot of things that we can learn from each other in terms of failures as well. And we've seen the concrete pods being taken away during the monsoon, and the water systems, being degraded because the natural channels were not paid attention to. So I think there's a lot of nature-based solutions, indigenous species of plants on our water's edge, which should be used to build the new infrastructure instead of just concrete and the newer materials.
No, just to add on actually, our consultant has proposed a soft edge actually. She gave a right example of someone gave Singapore as an example actually. They use a concrete waterfront promenade. When there was an entire flooding happened, entire concrete went into the sea actually. So we have proposed entirely soft edge actually. There is basically we are not encouraging any concrete. Basically, that's a point of view I want to give you.
Sorry, I just want to understand the negotiation that you had to go through. I remember seeing the Mangalore Smart City proposal at the proposal stage,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And it was very interesting. I mean, we were all there presenting different smart city proposals. I want to understand how did that translate from the political angle? Because Mangalore, I mean, I have seen it 10 years back. It is one of the other cities that is going to bear the load of Karnataka. Bangalore is one. Mangalore is one of these other upcoming cities. So there is a pressure to be part of a larger metro city vision and a future thinking city. So I want to understand what were the dilemmas you had to face from being a very conservative local, small city to now growing into this larger vision that is looking at, for example, Singapore and looking at, emulating what is happening in other global cities. Just want to understand what.
No, so you are right actually. Basically, in this region actually politically we have a good support actually. But only as he started the conversation, no, like fisherman community, someone. See, problem happen. What is the basic problem in public mind? When we say something, people don't understand what we are doing. They start commenting and start protesting. They'll not ask us what is the proposal. We say something X, Y, Z location. They think that we are going to rehabilitate them. Firstly, their first perception. So then we have involved the local politicians. We have had lots of consultation. Then people understood, okay, the politician assured that we are not going to rehabilitate anyone. That is going to help them for their livelihood. So it took almost 2-3 years for consultation only actually. Yeah.
I just wonder how we can break this uniformity of design. I mean, that's worrying to me because we are trying to paint the entire coastline with one picture. Correct me if I'm wrong, the coastline edges probably are formed of many neighborhoods, right? I mean, internally, there would be many neighborhoods that constitute the length of the waterfront. Can each of these neighborhoods express themselves along the edges of the water? Their cultures, their aspirations, their desires, their engagements, etc. Creating a whole variety of segments of the waterfront. I remember, just to give you an example politically, when we first did 2 kilometers of waterfronts in Bandra through citizens' engagement, the chief minister then, who was then at one point also the Lok Sabha speaker, a very powerful man, approached me and said, can we repeat this promenade that you did in another part of Mumbai where he lives? And that part was a chowpat, was a beach, was a waterfront which had a soft edge, unlike Bandra, which was full of garbage being dumped over years and had mangroves and rock formations and so on and so forth. So it's not just the variety or the variations of the coastline, but each neighborhood over time have developed their own identity. And these identities could start coloring and painting the length of these waterfronts into an amazing variety of spaces and expressions that breaks this one firm, one design, one uniformity. I think that's worrying.
I don't think so. I think it's not possible to have a uniformity. As you rightly said, because it cannot be a carbon copy of all the regions actually. No, actually in video, no, actually I like to add, the edge of the river is basically meant for walking only, no vehicular movement actually. It's basically a walking. The reason we chose that area is because usually the city used to develop along the rivers. Now it has gone from the river actually. To reach to the river, we don't have a proper entry to the river. So we are going towards the land side. Agree, agree. No, basically there is nothing called fisherman community in this part of this neighborhood is actually is uniformity. Basically, if you see half of the portion is industrialization actually. Yes, basically industrialization because of Mangalore tiles. See this old port area, yes, entire export has to happen from this port, old port. So now they are abandoned actually.
So I just want to be a little devil's advocate. Okay, last comment. How many of us say Delhi Metro has been good for Delhi? Or how many of us would say Delhi Metro is bad for Delhi? Any hands? Sir, Delhi Metro. Is it bad for Delhi or is it good for Delhi? Yeah, I'm asking you also. I mean, I don't know how many people are from Delhi Metro is good for Delhi or bad for Delhi? Delhi Metro specifically is good for Delhi or bad for Delhi? No, I'm asking Delhi. Rajiv, what would you think?
Of course, it is good for Delhi.
Delhi. Okay, so I am saying it's good for Delhi among the people. Is there anybody from Delhi who's saying bad for Delhi? It's good for Delhi. So everybody's saying good for Delhi. I'd just like to mention here, when Delhi Metro started, there was a lot of opposition. I have a letter from architect Kuldeep Singh, one of the most respected, sensitive architects, writing to all the architects and saying that we should not allow Delhi Metro. Okay? And when we went to Chandni Chowk, everybody opposed. It had to be pushed through. I am only talking about, I'm just being a devil's advocate. When people do, no, I'm not arguing. Look, listen, sir. I am not saying don't do it or do it. I am just saying that people.
So.
Don't jump on me. I
So.
am telling you that there is a. When you don't understand, then there's a problem.
I think we can all agree that this is a very complex
It's a complex
project.
situation, but often, many of us don't really. I'm Kuldeep Singh. I mean, sir, did you know Kuldeep Singh? Yeah. So I am just saying that many of us, from the common man, which is Chandni Chowk, opposed it, and Kuldeep Singh opposed it. So we don't really understand what is happening here. There may be other variations.
Okay, so I just want to say we've been very clearly asked to wrap up this so that you can all have some food. But I think, the improvisational theater that we started to sort of address the complexity, I think that worked. And now we're talking real-time complexity. So I think a definite takeaway from a very engaging audience is dialogue. We need more dialogue and more dialogue and more dialogue.
That's it.
So we just want to end with a few closing contemplations based on like where we are not from here. We are not experts on Mangalore. We can only address some of our experiences that we've seen. So you want to start first, Dick?
That's good, Frederick. Yes, of course. We arrived this morning here, and we have seen some places, and we saw actually quite late the movie, where we had a bit of picture of what exactly was the idea. But indeed, I think Mangalore as a city, with giving its position, has really good potential for development. But it should be done in a respective way, respect for the existing situation. And of course, industry which has really no function anymore and has low jobs and will be difficult, has less value for the city and could be transferred into other functions which have value, of course. If you come to a more residence area, or for example the Fisher place, but I understand you will not really touch that. If I understand, you keep this value thing. It's a beautiful place, so don't touch that, but this will not happen, I understand. It's always important, and it's quite easy actually as a principle for everything. If you transfer something, if you transfer a place, the added value should not only be for the new people coming in, but it should be at least the same, having the same added value for the existing people who already live there, or entrepreneurs. So that's something probably you've taken in account already, but that's a reflection I would give. Another thing, what I saw on the movie, but I don't know whether that will be done, is I was a bit about some questions about the big road I saw. There was a big road along the coast drawn. Maybe it's a highway, I don't know. I saw it, maybe I saw it wrong. But that's something I understand, that you, from your infrastructure and mobility, have some questions. I really understand this. But you should be careful, because this road will in fact block the relation with the top quality you have from the city. So I know it's difficult, but I would not do this, to be honestly, because all the quality we have, you disconnect the city with the quality of the water and everything. So think about other solutions of infrastructure and mobility in that case. And the point making there, try to keep the different identities, the very micro identities who are already there, try to keep this identity, because they have a quality in such. And do a transformation in a way to keep the identities and the quality, and at the same time you need to make the transformation in the right way. That's my observation. But good work, isn't it? Thank you.
So I'm going to keep my reflection very, very brief. So I was I think I'm sadly most famous for a legacy of closing Stockholm's largest port for goods, which is actually the port that Stockholm as a city was founded upon, like way back when, because Stockholm, as many port cities, is a port that became a city, because it just wasn't feasible to have a container port in the middle of a city anymore. And obviously that affected a lot of jobs, affected families, businesses. It was a very tough process, but we managed to relocate it. And then when we were starting to look at what are we going to do with this container port, and I was very, very concerned with the legacy. I think the maritime legacy, especially just like here in Mangaluru where you have the fishery legacy, is very important for the identity of a place. We spoke a little bit yesterday about form and function and also culture. I think this really is the port in Mangalore, and especially the fishery port, is part of the soul of this city. There are actually ways of moving forward, of going into development and still preserving the soul of a city. So these are my quick takes. Thank you.
Just as a reality check, the fisheries are out-of-state fisheries that we saw. They overfish the seas, and they do not fish sustainably. It's a different situation in Malpe, where we'll be going tomorrow. Fishermen. These are fishermen who have come now to fish, to fish the seas. Trawlers, yeah. And the size of fish you get now are much smaller. So we should always